Welcome to the Release Your Blocks podcast. I am your host, Victoria Bond. I am a spiritual empowerment coach. I help teach others to show up to their potency so they can fulfill their mission here on earth. I am so glad you are here. And if you are interested in becoming a medium, if you're interested in becoming a life coach, or if you're interested in shifting your life from the 3D to live more in the 5D reality, then check me out, book a clarity call, and let's get chatting. Hey everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Release Your Blocks with Victoria Bond. I have the beautiful Viola Hug here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for today's chat.
Oh, I am so excited too. And for those of you who don't know Viola, I'm just going to read this part of your website because this is just explained to you in a nutshell. So you're a psychic expansion coach and a channel for high-level spiritual entrepreneurs. You grew your multiple six-figure business by letting spirit work through you, leaning into your own edges and taking a fuckload of baths, liberating those around you into being unapologetically themselves and activating spiritual leaders. That's it, right? I read that and I was like, I'm just going to say that because it makes me want to cry actually. And it's interesting. So I've got an open solar plexus, so I don't cry that often. But like you're having baths and you talk about sex and you've actually got a podcast called Spirit, Sex, Money. And all of these things, which we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago as well, is the things that people don't know are real. The quantumic, the collapsing timelines. So can you tell me a little bit about this? Because you're a manifestor, right? And the human design, which is amazing. And can you tell us a little bit about how this came about, really? Because you're a multiple six-figure coach and you help multiple six-figure coaches. So yeah, I'd just love to hear a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me as well. It's like that one part of me is just like, well, of course, duh, this is my life, like I always knew in some way. And yet I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually my life. And I feel like it's like a mantra for my life. And like what I see in my own life and with my clients is just like mind blown, but also duh. Like I'm always so happily surprised, pleased, amazed at what the universe is delivering when a part of me already knows it's possible. But then when I see it come to fruition, I'm like, yes. And I mean, I don't know whether it's because I'm a manifestor, so a little bit meant to be a little bit edgy and leaderish in that sense, or whether, what other factors came into that. I'm sure it's all connected, but I feel like I was born to bring myself to my own edges and find out what true expansion and what life is like when you really bring yourself to the edge of your own comfort zone and possibility. Because talking about sex, right, which sometimes we feel like it's pretty random, and I'm like, it isn't though, right? It is, but it isn't, because it's like such an important conversation. Talking about spirits, as talking about all of these different things are things that I've had my own challenges, discomforts, and challenges with my whole life. Like if you would have told my teenage version this, I probably would have thought it was kind of cool, but more, I would have been embarrassed. I would have been too shameful to talk about any of this stuff. I would have felt like it was bad, or that you'd be rejected, or, like all of the fears, because those were really at the forefront of my mind. And so I feel like because I knew I was to have a really big purpose in this life, I was given a lot of things to overcome, right? Like I say, I had 3 huge awakenings on my journey here. And that was, the first one was my abundance awakening, where I came to this realization of how we really truly are the essence and the energy of abundance always. And that if we want to change our external circumstance and relationship with abundance and money, it really comes from getting to know that frequency within ourselves first, right? And it sounds kind of like ethereal, but it kind of is, right? It is a lot of energetic work, but it completely changes your external world. So prior to launching my coaching business at the start of 2018, I'd been an entrepreneur for 5 to 6 years, but I was in 6 figures of debt. I was fully burnt out. I was trying to build my business out of hustle and what I thought you had to do. And then that's kind of when I had my breakthrough, because nothing was working for me financially. I was like, I have to search in different corners for what needs to change. And that's when I learned about the energetics, right? And your relationship with money, and what it really truly means to feel successful just for existing rather than any external circumstance. So that was huge. Then the second one was my spiritual awakening, where I realized like I can lead with spirit, which the abundance and the spiritual one were pretty close together. I'd say I had like my third awakening was my sexual awakening. And I'd say I had a mini one around the same time that I had the spiritual and the abundance one. But it was kind of like I dipped my toe in, but then because of circumstances, like different things that I went through, you know, my partner and I were kind of getting ready to have kids, and I did get pregnant, but I miscarried. And there was like a lot that just like really created a disjointed my relationship with that exploration. But then after I had my baby, when I did get pregnant and have a baby, it happened again, and it was full on this time, because finally, like I've known always that I'm really here to work in duality. I'm here to work with the kind of woman who really does want it all. Like she wants to have the really successful business, and she wants to have a really good home life. You know, she wants to have a really good personal life. She cares about making money, but she cares about how she makes money and who she is in the world. And she cares about high quality things, both in what she does and what she presents to the world, how she values and honors herself, and how she lives her life. It's like an all-encompassing experience. So I literally have a degree in science, and I talk to spirits, right? Like I am so energetic in my work, and I know strategy, right? Like it gets to be a both world. And so this play between the human, being so human, and being so spiritual, this dance between the human and the soul is really where I love to play, and getting them on the same team, and, you know, getting into this understanding that our human and everything we experience because we're human is part of the experience, but it is not the leading energy. The soul, the spirit is the leading energy. And when I launched the brand at the start of 2021, Spirit, Sex, Money, with my podcast and my Facebook group, it was really this culmination of realizing it's just like the spirituality is that internal guidance system, that higher purpose energy, the spirit, the soul. And then the sex is the human, the most raw human energy. It's the sexual energy within us. It's the pleasure. It's actually enjoying the experience, right? It's so much, for those of you who are just like, what the fuck is she talking about? It's so much more than just it's not about sex with another human. It's this whole energy. It's what this means. It means our relationship to our own bodies, both sexual and not. Its relationship to this life force and creative energy within us. And also, I feel a huge piece is this liberation from all of the things we've been told that we should feel shame about, or we shouldn't express about ourselves. And the sexual energy is the ultimate of that, right? Especially for women identifying people, it's like, that is the one thing we are told goes in the naughty corner. We do not talk about that. And it's like, if we shame parts of ourselves, we'll never be truly expressed, embodied, or experienced. So that's really that piece. And then the money part really stands for this, like the impact, the purpose, the abundance, and everything. So that's how it all came together in a
that's delicious
nutshell.
I love it. And one of the things I noticed that once after you had Milo, when you brought out Spirit, Sex, and Money, because I had been following you and I've bought one of your programs and things, and I was just like, oh my God, she is so sexy. And like, I love to play, well, your photos are just next level. And I was like, yes, because as a projector, my purpose is to help others get their own genius out into the world. I mean, and that's your purpose too, right? Like you want to help people be empowered. And I use spirit and things like that as well. But when it comes to sex, like you said, it's not about intercourse. as much as it is giving and taking, and I talk a lot about this on my podcast as well, where when we're giving and then we're receiving, and we can have this relationship with the world and the like with people, with the universe, with spirit, and it's just so beautiful, because this orgasmic energy that we bring into life is the frequency of that money. So it's nearly like, I was thinking about the other day, it's kind of like money is neutral, and of course you can turn up the frequency of money. So if it is turned up and up and up and up and up, and you start demanding, okay, I'm ready to receive more, and you're ready to unleash yourself sexually, meaning the orgasmic energy, so turning up your own frequency, it turns up the frequency of money and receiving, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I feel like it's also like, I feel like pleasure in general, whether we're talking about orgasm or the frequency of orgasmic energy, or just pleasure in general, it's like it trains our body to hold all of the energetic increase that we desire, right? Because when I said before, like our human and our soul really have to be on board. It's if our human and our soul were on the same page about everything, we would have instant manifestations of everything we desired, because there would be no resistance to whatever, right? But the fact that we are human, that's not the point, to have instant manifestation to every single thing, because we are also here to heal things. We are also here to have the human experience and experience ourselves as the potential of the soul, right? So there's all of this magic that comes together with being a human, and that's great. And sometimes we actually do instantly manifest things, and those are things like you can imagine something that you know is kind of going to happen, and you just have this like no-brainer energy about it. It's like you don't even really think about it too much. You don't have a huge attachment to it. It's just like, well, duh, that's going to happen kind of vibe. And it's really interesting because I have this client, she's inside one of my masterminds, and she has been like this whole year saying she's going to move. And there's been like, they haven't had plans to move. There hasn't been anything about that. She's just had this energy, like, I really want to move from where I am. She had kind of like visions and imaginations about where she wanted to move. And she, in meditations, she would quite often see this like vibe of a house, and people would be like, what are your plans this year? And she's like, oh, we're moving. And they'd be like, where? And she'd be like, don't know, we're just moving. You're like, I don't know. And then literally 2 weeks ago, this offer comes up, and like on Friday now, so within 2 weeks and a couple of days from when this like opportunity arose, she's literally moving to another state. The house is exactly like what she saw in her meditations, that it's exactly the location she had thought up in her mind, and it just like all happened. And when that opportunity arose, it was just like this no-brainer energy for her. She was like, oh yeah, this is the opportunity I've been, preparing for. And it was almost like next to an instant manifestation. And it's because she was just so already convicted of that it was going to happen, that by the time it came, it happened instantly. And you can even think of this, like, if you're just like, and I know this is a little bit of, sometimes we get into this like more trippy kind of conversation, but if we're like, you know how they say if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? And then there's also that whole kind of conversation of like, we only see what we see, and our mind kind of fills in the gap, and our mind also erases things. Like it erases our nose out of our vision when we look at the world, even though if we focus on it, it's actually there all the time. And different things like that. If milk's in the fridge, is it there unless you see it? You open the fridge, you go to get milk, and it's there. Instant manifestation, so to speak, because you have no resistance to knowing it's there, right? I know I'm going on a huge tangent, but it feels relevant. And so when our human and our mind, our soul are on the same page, instant manifestation. However, we need to allow our human to get to the point where it can trust our soul enough to step into that next level. And so when we play around with things like, the fear often is, can I handle it? That's a big fear that we have. And especially to the ego mind, because the ego mind is like, I'm safe the way that I am. So why would I change, right? My goal is to keep you alive. And who knows, having more money might kill me. I don't know, right? And so when we allow ourselves to feel things like pleasure, It is a very similar, like I almost feel them and see them psychically as the same energy: gratitude, pleasure, and abundance. Very similar energies. They play in the same field. And so if you're new to like experiencing pleasure, like allowing yourself to feel good, I talk, you know, in layman's terms, it's really just let yourself feel good. But if it's new for you to play around with feeling pleasure, whether it be sexually or not, you can play around with gratitude as well, and just, you know, make the association like, oh, it's pleasurable to feel gratitude in your body, right? So you feel this feeling in your body, and the longer that you can hold it and the bigger you can feel it and the more often you can feel it, it's like your body's strength to hold more things to be grateful for increases. Your body's ability to hold more experiences to feel pleasurable increases. Your body's ability to hold more abundance and what that represents in your life, right? The impact that you make, who you're being, all of those things expand. So I love it because it really does teach the body how to expand its potential.
Yeah, and that's scientific as well, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. Science and spirituality. You can get it all here.
Yeah. And it's so amazing. This is when we're talking about like really quantum leaping. So I said just before this call, you know, we've just hit the multiple six figures this year. And you know, the craziest thing, Viola, was that I was talking to my coach and she kept saying, Victoria, you've already hit 160,000 this year. Like, that's amazing. And it's only halfway through the year. And every time she said that, I was thinking, no, it's actually like well over that. But I'm playing safe. So I'd be like, yeah, probably safe at 160. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm such a dick. I know I've made over $200,000. I know it. I'm not even owning it. And I'm not seeing it and I'm not acknowledging it. And then I messaged her and said, I've got to tell you, I've actually done like well over that. And she's like, what? Like, wow. And I'm like, I didn't want to make it a big deal, because if she knew, if the world knew, then what if it became real, and what if I can't handle it? What if that puts an expectation on me to do more? So there was that part of that, which is really interesting. But going back to like that whole manifesting, what I love about this, something also happened in the last 24 hours, as well as the 200K thing, is that, you know, we have got a section, and the section is going to come up for title in a year's time, is literally looking at the beach. It's going to be a 10-minute walk to the beach. My favorite part of New Zealand, like not even kidding. We're going to build our beautiful home there. And the way that came about on the 2nd of January was I'm in this little town, this little beach town where I grew up, and I was like, we're going to live here, we're going to live here, we're going to live here, we're going to live here. And it literally, my ego came in. I could not see anything other than we have to live here. My friends are here, the beach is here, I grew up here. And then my husband goes, Victoria, do you want to come over to this other town an hour away? Because we've been invited to come over because our friend has just bought a section there. And I was like, nah, you go. Again, ego. I just want to stay here. We're going to buy here. We're going to buy here. These houses are like really expensive. We did not have millions of dollars for this. And the long story short is, he sent me a photo and he goes, seriously, there is a section right here next to my best friend. There is a view of the ocean. It's a 10-minute walk to the beach. It is in a new like subdivision. It is perfect. We don't have to pay anything for 2 years. And this is what you've been asking for. Do you want to come have a look? And I'm like, oh, whatever. So like literally whatever. Okay. Went there, stood on there. We were both like nearly in tears going, what? This is way more than we even asked for in the first beach town. And I started with this $200,000 thinking, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real, because it's happened so fast. And then Luke showed me a photo and he goes, this is our section. This is the view. And I thought, oh my God, it is already real. The money has already been created. The section is already there. And then what is the difference between going, okay, we've got this section, now put a house on it and live there, be by the beach, and turn that 200,000 into 200 million? Like, what is the difference? There's no fucking difference, because it's already happening.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's also really interesting is I find that also when we hit goals, oftentimes they don't feel like whatever. And one of the biggest reasons is, I mean, there's, I think, 2 main factors to look at. And I think the first one is that we energetically already are a match before it shows up physically. So by the time you make 200,000, 200 million, whatever, it's like you're already energetically ready, which is why it often doesn't feel different. You're like, oh, I thought it would feel something. It's like, no, you've already grown into that version, right? Like now it's about who are you being for the next version of yourself, if that's what you desire, right? And then the second thing is that, and I hear this a lot with like what you were saying, it's just like, be like, oh, it's not real, I'm not sure, is like this being able to see ourselves from this new perspective, being able to really be in the embodiment of I did this. And this is why I love celebration. When I sign new clients, it's actually one of the questions I ask them on their intake form is, how do you celebrate yourself? Because I need to know, one, so that I know how I can celebrate them and, you know, celebrate along with them. But then two, it gives me such incredible insight, because how people answer this question often shows me how embodied they are in what they're creating and how they're prioritizing the embodiment of this. And it's so incredibly important. I mean, there's like literally scientific reasons of why celebrating is so powerful. And short answer, it helps our subconscious mind literally create new programming around this thing, right? And so it's like two things that create new programming in your mind is repetition, which is why we say, like, when you do affirmations or when you do new things, you have to do it over and over and over again. It's not about perfection the first time you do it. And secondly is heightened emotional experiences. And through continuously celebrating ourselves and recognizing ourselves and witnessing ourselves and what we are doing, we're doing both, right? So that's why that's so important. Scientifically, guys. But then it's also like, if we're not actually realizing, oh my gosh, I am the kind of person who creates this, I am the person who has this impact, I am the person who lives this lifestyle, then we're never fully in the embodiment of that. And it's like, we're trying to impact the world from like who we used to be. And we're like only like showing up with that energy and we're still creating results. Imagine what would happen if we actually fully embodied who we are and what could come. And then secondly, we can self-sabotage ourselves when we're not fully owning what we've created as well. So it's how people get stuck or how people disassociate and not really feel the pleasure and the joy of the experience as well. And I think, you know, what the fuck is a goal if you don't feel good? Like, if you're not enjoying your life, what's the point? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. That's external validation driven, which is never ever going to fulfill you.
It blows my mind, because exactly what you're saying is exactly what I've experienced, because I'm sitting there going, hang on, I've already done it. And when I realized that I had this ego thing going on, I acknowledged that. I've done a lot of work, and I went, oh my God, I'm driving with my ego. I've created this mind entity. What is happening? And I was like, you know what if I just before we got that section, I went, like literally minutes before, this is how fast you can manifest. I went, what if I just destroy and uncreate all of the points of view that I have about where I live and how I live, and just hold that vision of, oh, I'm a mermaid, man. I'm a projector. I've got a big mermaid on my arm, a tattoo. I am here to have like 2 baths a day, or at least one, to do swimming, to relax, and to bring in money, and to show up and shine. Like, that is the thing of my alignment. And I was functioning as a manifest generator. I've always been a hustle girl. I've always been go. I'm the oldest of 5. I'm like, let's go. And I'm like, no more. So I destroyed and uncreated all the points of view that I had about where I lived. And then boom, the invitation came, and my husband goes, come over here and have a look. And we stood there, went, whoa, put that deposit down. These sections weren't even on the market.
Wow.
And because I can't see the section, because it's 6 hours away from where we live now, I kind of like dropped it out of my mind. And so Luke had to literally show it to me. And then all of a sudden I got out of this kind of feeling and went, okay, just because the $200,000 isn't sitting in the bank account, because we live very abundantly now as well, from being extremely broke and burnout. So I've got very similar history to you. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And it can get better and better and better and better. And the most amazing thing is, as soon as I had that realization in this last 24 hours, I made like, I don't know, in the last 5 days, I've made multiple 5 figures. Like, I have made a lot of money in the last 5 days, like thousands of dollars daily, because I just went, oh, okay, that's where you were like self-sabotaging. That's where you were upper limiting yourself. okay, now it's time to rise and expand and quantum and collapse timelines again. So I feel like I've just been through that, which is totally crazy. And this is what people are doing, aren't they?
Yeah, I love that. It's such a good testament to it. And this is the thing, it's just like, no matter what stage in your business or your journey or whatever you're on, this is a consistent thing we have to remind ourselves of, because the mind is always going to want to slip back into comfort. And that's okay too. You're allowed to move through energetic ebbs and flows as well. Like, you know, like it's so funny. And at one point in 2020, because a lot of people were having like, you know, dark night of the soul vibes in 2020. And I was just like, I'm not even affected at all. And then by the time I got to the end of 2020, I was like, okay, I like really did just go through a dark night of the soul. Like it was so much internal stuff and shadow work and all the things. But, you know, like I went through that and it was just like a lot more focused inward. And then now I'm really feeling like I'm in a very outward energy right now. You know, I'm bringing a lot more things out, and it's just like we're allowed to ebb and flow. And I think this is like with baths, it's something that I laugh about, because I say that in my intros quite a lot. I'm like, I've taken a fuckload of baths to get where I am. And people are just like, what do you mean you're clean? Like, no, energetically clean. Yes. But what I mean is that because I was similar to you, like I used to very much operate outside of my energetic alignment. And I very much pushed myself and hustled, and I thought that emotions, feminine energy, resting was for the weak. I was like, that's something you do when you're, you know, already successful. You don't have time for that when you're building your empire, which is just like, I like laugh and gag at the same time when I think of how I used to have that mentality. And I feel so sorry for people when they really truly think that's what they have to do. I mean, if you like doing that, but let's be real, like how many people like that? But yeah, so the big shift for me was realizing that I'm allowed to rest, and that actually my rest is my most sacred time. It's the space where I clean the slate and allow more downloads to come in. It's where I actually pay more attention to enjoying my life. And I love taking baths. I'm such a water person as well. Like I've had past lives on like full water planets and like all of these different things, like the ocean, like any body of water, I love it. Like I love it. And when I'm the most like turned on to like everything in my body's alive is when I'm like in crystal clear ocean where it's like super deep, but you can see the ground.
Oh my God.
That's like full vibes for me. It's just everything. But yeah, so that's really what the baths is all about. Is it's like my symbol of really relaxing and taking time for myself. And sometimes I have work baths where I work in the bath, and sometimes it's relaxed baths, and sometimes it's pleasure baths, and sometimes it's meditation baths. Like it can be anything, but yeah. I haven't even taken a bath in my new house yet, but my cleaners come tomorrow, so I'm gonna do it after that.
I'm gonna have a bath straight after this interview. Like literally, yeah. I have baths all times of the day. And one of my friends, she has a product line and she makes these truffle luxury bath bombs, and they're full of rose petals. And I have like mermaid baths, and I same with you, all different types of baths. It's like a bath menu of like, what type of bath would I like? Do I want to listen to a podcast, or do I want to read my HD book, or do I want to lie there? And I'm like, you know what? If I work for myself, and if I want to go and have a bath and do my content, I will. So yeah,
I love a work bath. I'm here for work baths, especially when I'm like writing posts and stuff. I'm a very clear channel in water.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first got this habit, when I first started my coaching business, I had a guide, and he was helping me kind of like express my true self more, because I was very much like robotic in how I spoke, coming from the business perspective that I'd been coming from. It was like I had to be professional. I had to be all these things that I'm not, but he was like really there to help me speak my true voice and let my personality come out more. And he connected with me best through water. So I'd always go in the bath and channel his energy and write my content.
I love that so much. So it's just everything is so interesting. And I think what I'm tapping into as well is if people are willing to, I think you said this in your website as well, one of the words is if they're willing to unleash themselves, if they're willing to go to those edges. I love how you say that. And it's always fucking scary. It's always scary. That is what I tell my clients. I want you to be scared. I don't want you to be in fear. I'm so scared about, I've been saying this quite a lot in this last week. I'm so scared about putting myself out there. I've got programs called Magnificent Mediumship. So I teach people how to tap into those abilities and quantum stuff and all sorts of stuff. And it's always scary bringing it out because we channel it through and you go, really? Did you really think that that's going to work? And then you put it out there and it does work. And I just want to say to people, like, my biggest message is to let people know, like, you have to be scared. You have to be excited. You have to push, like Viola said, to the edges, to those fucking edges. And then sometimes burst through them to unleash yourself. And that's what, when I look at your photos and they're so goddamn sexy with your lace and the money and just the photos. And I'm like, this is a picture of a manifestor showing a visual of what people need to do. That's what I see when I see that. I'm like, yes, I hope people see, because as a projector, I can see what you're doing with the picture. I can see the message of the picture. And so I want to thank you and acknowledge you for that. But I also want to, like, let people know, you know, to actually, like, look at these photos and just to go, you know, Viola it's nearly like you are a mirror for what they are as well. Like, just to go really weird and into a loop in that. But this is what you're doing. You're showing people what they have within them. And, you know, you're also showing mamas that, like, you've got a lot of breastfeeding pictures as well and videos and stuff. And I was like, fuck, this is amazing. This is so good. And I know a lot of people are doing that now, but you're saying you can be sexy and be a mum. You can be an entrepreneur and be sexy and be a mum. You can also do this while you're moving. I know you moved in the last 6 months as well. And you can have this duality. We don't have to be perfect. Like, I showed up the other day because I lost 2 animals last week. We lost a guinea pig and a cat. And so when the two of us in the family, so I've got a little boy and a little girl, my husband and my daughter were devastated, like legit devastated. So I had to hold space for them. So I couldn't turn up to a call. And the next day I spent the whole day in bed and I wore my unicorn onesie all day. And I showed up to a call in my onesie, with my unicorn onesie. That's what I did. And I was unapologetic. And I had to drop perfectionitis. I had to drop it all and go, I'm going to show up, I'm going to be present, and I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
But too many people are trying to find the perfectionitis, trying to find the perfectionism, before they show up. They go, I'll get there when I get there. But I already got there, and I had to turn around and go, hang on, I got to remember I got there. Like, it doesn't work that way. We grow up, but we don't see ourselves growing up.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that as well is that we are designed to grow, right? Whether we're growing physically, energetically, there's always going to be a part of us that desires to experience what's next. And I remember at one point in my life that really scared me, that notion, because I thought, will it ever feel enough? And that was before my abundance awakening, right? That was when I was still having external validation feelings, because what happened when I first went into entrepreneurship is my first year, it was just like the easiest thing ever. I was just so successful so easily. And then it like crashed and burned so badly. But it, like, I remember when I hit this like first really huge goal that I had set for myself, it was literally like, I actually felt upset. I didn't feel good at all when I hit it. And everyone around me was like, what's next? And even I was just like, well, I guess I have to double this goal now in a less amount of time for it to be worth anything. Right. And I just remember having this like pit and being like, when's it ever going to be enough? And then, you know, I really quickly realized that we are beings of duality. I've talked about this so much, but we get to be so grateful what we have and let everything be enough and still desire more. Those things get to coexist. And I think that's really beautiful. And desiring more doesn't take away from what we have, right? It's just like, I think my relationship's amazing. I love my relationship with my husband, and I'm excited to continue to grow and experience more intimacy with my husband, right? Like, I'm not like, if it stayed the same, amazing. I love our relationship, but am I excited about what else is possible? Of course, right? Like, why wouldn't I be when I can welcome in more love, more intimacy, more connection? Of course. So it's like, we're always going to have that part of us that desires to grow. And the point why I brought this up is because I'm trying to backtrack my thought process is because, what did you say before?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just keep going. It sounds so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, there's a part of us that still desires to grow. So we're like, when we do break through like new levels, we are going to have that kind of next level perfectionism. There it is. We're going to have that like desire for the next level, but the fear that a lot of us have is that we have to keep reaching the goal before we're good enough to put our offer out there, or to feel confident, or to make the money, or to whatever the thing is. But I like to switch the perspective and say, if you're in mastery of what you're doing, if you are in integrity with what you are doing the right thing. Because when I didn't start teaching money straight away in my business, but I did teach abundance energy, because I understood that, and I was having so many clear downloads of spirit. I started teaching that maybe 6 months into my business, but like, I was in mastery of what it took to feel abundant, right? Like, I practiced that every single day. Was there still potential for me to earn more money and make? Yes, of course, there always is. But I am so in integrity with money and abundance because it is fully embodied in who I am. I understand how to feel abundant. I understand how to have a great relationship with money. And it's something I place a priority on in my life. And so it's like, with whatever, like within our businesses, we feel like we have to have a set amount of testimonials, or we have to have blah, 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 blah before we're taken serious, or before we can be successful or be taken serious, when really, truly, it's just like, if you just are, if you show up and you're committed to your craft, and you're committed, like, I talk a lot about devotion, because for me, I feel like it's an art how we live our life. It's like, what are we placing priority on? It's not always the easiest thing. Like, with all the things I have going on, it's not always easy for me to be like, I'm going to set time aside now for pleasure, or for meditation, or for inner child healing. Like, yesterday morning, I journaled on the couch for an hour and just cried my eyes out while I was doing an inner child healing. Like, those are not easy things to prioritize, because I could have done the laundry. I could have caught up on the 50 freaking emails and things that I need to be doing. I could have done this. I could have done that. I could have cleaned. Like, I don't know. There's a million things I could have done, but I prioritize that because I'm devoted to who I am, and my business, and my craft, and my experience on earth. Like, I want it to be everything, right? So I talk a lot about this energy of devotion, but really what it is, it's just this energy of commitment, of really being in it, being in the experience. And if anything, ask yourself where you may be getting in your head rather than in the experience of what it is that you do. And that can help release a little bit of that perfectionism, because perfectionism happens in the mind, right? When we are just living our truth, when we are living in alignment with what we teach, with what we do, with what's important to us, then we are already going to feel more confident. We're going to have things channel through more easily. We're going to feel so much more ready, right? Even before we get the external things. So yeah.
Beautiful.
That's my spiel.
Thank you. I love it. And we must also remember, on the soul level, on the spirit level, if we are trusting, we have to show up. We have to do this devotion. We have to do, I love the word devotion, because it's not as scary as commitment. So thank you for that. The whole, we must, commit to our living. We must devote ourselves to ourselves. And then we must lean back and let spirit and our soul, because we know they're different things, to come in and to guide us. We must lean back. I see too many people going, when I get there and I'm going to put on my big girl pants. But it's really about, that's probably one of the biggest parts of it, is actually leaning back. So if you're too in the feminine, then you lean back too much and go, oh, my spirit guys will tell me what to do when it is I'm going to sit on the couch and wait for it. Like, that's not going to happen. You sat there and you cried. And you cried and you cried and you cried, and you are a very successful coach. I sit there and I cry and I cry and I cry and I cry when I do this deep work. But people think, oh yeah, these guys would never cry. They've got their shit sorted. They've done the work. It's like, no, we cry more now. I
The
can't
thing
speak for
is
you.
that we like the shadow work, like again, I was talking about increasing your capacity before, because that's so much of what it is, right? Getting our human on board with our soul, like I said. And so our human has to get comfortable in this uncomfortable space. And shadow work is actually one of the most powerful ways for expansion as well, because it's like when we allow ourselves to go deep, it's like a root system, right? Like the more we strengthen our roots and our depth and our shadow, the stronger we can expand what we can hold in our light, right above the ground. And so I feel like everything that we move through, I feel like business for the spiritual entrepreneur is the most powerful healing portal. It is just like, it is where our purpose comes alive in just so many new ways. And so it's like when we use our business and we're paying attention to the way we're thinking and the way we're reacting and the experiences that we're having, we're able to use those for such profound healing that is not only going to impact you, it's going to impact your lineage, it's going to impact your circles, it's going to impact generations to come, it's going to heal past lives. Like, it is, the work that we do is so powerful. Never fucking forget that. If it's you crying on your couch, if it's you meditating and sending love out to the world, if it's you just showing up for yourself, this is impacting far more than you know, right? Like, this is such important work. And so it really is holding ourselves in that duality. It's being able to cry on the couch and know what it's for. Right?
And be delightful. You're being so happy that you're having an emotional relationship, and you're so, I'm going to go do shadow work.
Exactly. And it's uncomfortable. Like, like for me, it was just like specifically yesterday, it was just a lot of stuff about recognizing how I lacked being loved the way that I needed to be loved at times growing up, and just a lot of realizations around that. It came up in one of my coaching calls with my coach of, it's a classic manifestor energy to feel love being withheld, being raised, right? But it's like, I've had this reoccurring fear, and it comes up at almost every new level for me, of being misunderstood, that people misunderstand my intentions because I'm such a nice person, but I come across really edgy and bold sometimes, and I don't want people to think blah, 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 right? Like, it is one of the most common fears that I have. And I realize that it's because I wanted my parents to understand me in particular ways that they didn't understand me, and not because of a fault of their own, just because of the way the energy dynamic was, And so when I had that realization, I was like, I need to go back and do some healing with this little girl, right? My 10-year-old self, because she's the one that was just like, I'm trying to do the right thing and nobody's getting it. And so, just to give you a little bit of transparency of what that actually looks like, that's why I cried, because when I felt her energy and I just felt how much she wanted to be loved, it was sad, and I needed to cry and let it out for her. And I needed to love her in that moment and love myself in that moment. And it was just this really beautiful healing experience. And I'm excited to see how that shifts that fear for me moving forward.
That's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable enough to share that, because the thing is, people think, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Not that you were crying online or anything, but like I do breath work and breakthroughs and stuff all the time because it's necessary. And what you said about this, like, it gives me goosebumps, because this is what some of my programs are about as well, is I do a lot of light coding. I do a lot of light language. And I know that we are healing the past, the present, and the future. And I'm like, guys, you don't realize that this work or this meditation or whatever it is, I want you to acknowledge that you're helping your children and your children's children. And even if you don't have kids, you're helping the children. And also these I'm seeing the ancestors as a medium. I'm sure you're the same. I see them come forward and we clear them. Like, we ask them, hey, are you ready to release this? So this work is not just about right now. It is, because everything is right now, but we're allowed to feel the feelings, to release them. The duality, I just love that so much, because that is not in this 3D reality. Like, it's so there, it's so there, but people don't acknowledge it. So I think you explain that really beautifully. And obviously this is a lot of the work that you do with your clients as well.
Yeah. It's like, it's so multifaceted. And I think this is, at the beginning we were talking about like titles, like psychic expansion coach or business coach or whatever. And I was like, it doesn't really matter, but it's because we find the title that best fits our vibe at the time, right? And this, for anybody listening who's ever struggled with what to call yourself, it's fine to have a title that fits your vibe for a time, but we are multi-dimensional, multifaceted beings who have a very intense and powerful purpose on this earth. That's why we're here listening to this, right? Connected together. And there is never going to be 150 characters that describes you. And so it's even like when I think of the work that I do, it is so multifaceted, but that's the thing is I attract those kind of people to work with me as well that know it's all about all the things. They love the science and they love the spirituality. Like they want to go deep in, they're like willing to meet themselves in their shadows. And they're like, let's talk about Instagram strategy. Like, it's like both. And they get to have all these beautiful, luxurious life experiences. And then they get to channel light language and heal ancestral lineages and all these beautiful things. Like, it gets to be all of it. And so on a surface level, it's like I help you make more money in a happier, more abundant, more purposeful way. But the things that we do to get there are so individualized. They're so varying depending on each individual person.
Structure and strategy is not gonna, like you said, it got you there in the first year or whatever. But then to go deeper, you had to go deeper inwards and instead of the external. And people will come to me and they go, what am I going to get? And now I just literally go, well, you're going to get what you're going to get. Like, and I'm like, oh gosh, because I'm so, I'm a 3-5 projector and I do not solidify stuff. So as a medium as well, as you know, like we can't solidify too much stuff because why would we want to limit anything? So it's really interesting.
And even sometimes when I like create a structure for a program, like I'll download what I download, but then sometimes when I'm running the program, I'm like, oh, I just got to download to swap these around or to add this in. And so like quite often my programs end up molding from what they were when I was promoting it, but it's always better.
And it has to be that way. So everyone needs to unleash themselves, realize they're not just a body, they're a spirit and they're a soul, and they're healing many different time, space, and dimensions. Oh, thank you so much. How can people find you? Because we've got your stuff in the show notes, of course, but you've got your podcast, Spirit, Sex, Money, and where else is the best place to find out all the dealios from you?
So Instagram is, I feel like, a beautiful hub where everything's linked together. I'm at Viola Hug on there. I am always available for you to send me a DM. Let me know if you listen to this episode. And I have a Facebook group called Soulpreneurs Spirit, Sex, Money as well. It's linked to my Instagram. And I do one-on-one coaching work, mastermind coaching work, and I have various programs and a membership as well. So there's very different levels that I work at. I guess that would be the main things. Like that's all linked through my Instagram. Again, probably the easiest place. If you want to join my email list, you also get access to one of my trainings for free called Quantum Business Strategy, which is very cool. It's just a little bit of how to integrate spirit into your business strategy. So,
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I feel like I just want to let people know as well, just quickly, that it's not just what has been said today, it's the vibration. Because as I've been sitting here and I've been very like a little bit teary, which is kind of strange for me because I'm very aware of energy and spirit. I have been having guides coming through and I've had these awarenesses that I've been kind of like pushing guides back because I talk to a lot of spirit, and I've been like, I don't need guides. There's guides everywhere. I don't want to limit to guides. And when you talk about guides, I was like, oh shit, there's a couple of people there wanting to talk to me. And I'm like, oh no. And I realized I've been limiting myself by limiting these guides coming through. So I want to say thank you to you because this vibration that you bring, especially this, whether it's manifestor, whether it's just your soul, whatever, it doesn't even matter. It's all of you.
combination of all of it, probably.
It's all of it. Your vibration and even my vibration, our vortexes, is the thing that transforms people. So if people are feeling like they're waking up after listening to this and they don't know what's happened, it's because of this vibration. So I just wanted to
and I also have to say, it's another thing that interestingly happens when we're integrating is we also get sleepy because our body, our human, remember I was talking about our human and our soul getting on board, our body is like, and so sometimes if you're noticing yourself yawning, that's a really classic sign. So
yeah, and I've been sitting here going, I'm so relaxed. So I think I've been actually consuming your delicious vibration. Yes. So thank you. I expect to be paid massively today from the universe and the world as the money can keep rolling in. Thank you so much, Viola. Everybody go check her out on Instagram. And I personally love following you. I don't follow a lot of people because I'm a busy mama and I love my life and I don't love scrolling. But when I see you, I'm like, boom, got to stop, got to read this, got to have a look at this photo and consume it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my love. And we will talk soon. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful day and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining the Release Your Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear from you. So please leave a review and tell me what your favorite takeaway from today was. There is so much more from where this came from. You can also find me at Holistic Energy Shifting on Facebook, where you can find more content, more coaching, and more guidance. Have a grand and glorious day, and I'll see you next time.